so long as like alchemy.
Game 5 at the Mata Center on a Tuesday night. Oklahoma City on the brink of elimination here, down 3-1. And look, Oklahoma City, they're lacking a lot of things. Shooting, basketball IQ, depth. But one thing they're not lacking is effort. So you knew they were not going to go down without a fight, and I expected fireworks in this one. That's exactly what we got, y'all. Early on, and you see Russ front canter and force a turnover, and then look at the smoothness, fluidity, and pace that Paul George pulls the trigger on this first three. Just buttery smooth. And then you're going to see Jeremy Grant, who I think if you're a Thunder fan, you circle him as a silver lining. Like, okay, he's progressing, he's getting better with still plenty of room to grow. And then Amino, I didn't know he had that in the bag. That's a straight dime. Mo Harkless running the floor, and Portland's on the board. There's just no finesse to Russ's game, and he tries the Chris Paul kind of stop move on you from behind, and he just doesn't have the subtlety. And then let's be honest, Chris Paul gets away with it because of his stature, so the offensive foul from Russ. Look at Amino hop back to the three and then drive and get the big hammer, so two big plays from the Chief early in this game. A lot of good young players who can shoot the ball really struggle in game shooting is because they're sped up. Watch Paul George. Just slow down a beat and let the mechanics take over, and then all of a sudden you become fluid. Paul George, a perfect example. Jeremy Grant, the three ball. The others showed up in this elimination game for the Thunder, and then Russ, this is where he needs to take his game. Push the ball in transition, and I've been impressed with his passes. He's fully capable of making the right passes if that's his mindset. Steven Adams, the and one in transition. More PG, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Training vlog coming soon. PG 5 of 5 to start the game. Stouts had to stop this thing. Down 10 early, Dame's like, all right, let me take over here. Very Lou Will like leaner falling to the left. Now the high pick and roll action, and his release just takes over. Even when he's off balance and it doesn't look like a good shot, his release is so strong it can correct anything else that was wrong in the shot. Now here's icing the screen. Donovan called a timeout. You see where Russ is. He's not going to allow Westbrook to utilize the screen. He's going to send him to the big and to the corner. And initially, Dame quickly passes the ball. The strategy is to take the ball out of Dame's hand, and he wasn't ready for it on the first look of it, and it actually works. And this is where Dame's got a lot better, because in his younger days, he just reacted. He was an athlete. He tried to make a play and tried to beat it. But now he understands what's going on, so he takes the baseline and gets Amino an open three. But still, the Thunder strategy working, not allowing Dame to get off quite yet. And then CJ picks up a cheap foul here, leaving his feet. And early foul trouble really took him out of this game and out of rhythm early. Interesting that Myers Leonard's the first big off the bench and not Zach Collins, perhaps because they like him as a stretch. His energy's good, but he's not the highest of IQ players. And then Dame just does Ferguson dirty in the corner, behind the back, step back in the corner. Yeah, he got it. Over and over, we've heard the biggest knock on the construction of this Blazers team is the size of the backcourt. And you see OKC take advantage. PG just shooting right over the top of the 6'4" CJ. And then on the other end, you already saw the cheap foul. Now the offensive foul, and I thought that was a bad call. Take another look at that. How many guys get away with this? He doesn't even really extend the arm. I think it was just a good flop from Paul George. Take a look. We're getting to a certain point now where we're going to have to start grading out flops and like how good guys are at drawing cheap ones, right? It's becoming an elite trait, and we're seeing it. All the superstars are doing it. So now Donovan changes the ice strategy. Now he wants to switch the pick and roll. Zach Collins in there, and Dame's at the point where I don't think it matters who's on him. I think he just wants a one-on-one matchup, and he's going to go to work, and that's what he does against Grant. Now look at him snake through the double high screens, and then again it's the release. The legs, the elevation, that may change, but the release remains consistent and buttery smooth. Russ started to get more aggressive as Dame started to get baskets. He no longer was looking to distribute, and he started to maybe look to match Dame's offense. I had recently heard Steph give Seth the credit for being the best defender in the family, and I can see why now. I think being more of a role player than Steph, he's able to focus in on it more, and he takes more pride in it. Now, Schroeder, you could argue the offense ran better through him. He's definitely more efficient in that mid-range pull-up. Now, remember the ice set? This is ice gone wrong. Look at Schroeder. Schroeder's trying to send Lillard to the sideline where the big is going to wait for him, right? But Schroeder doesn't ice him properly. He takes a bad angle, and Lillard still uses the screen, and now Morris is left out to dry because he was waiting on the other side, and Dame continues the light show. Then, off the bench, it's everybody's favorite fat boy Felton with the feathery jumper. I don't know how many more times I'll get to say that and how long he'll be in the league, so I took advantage of that. And then I noticed this. I feel bad for Robertson and his injuries, but you can't be on the bench with bedazzled jeans, bro. You got to get off my bench with bedazzled jeans. I'm just saying. Watch Kanter come up gimpy here on the left shoulder. He grabs the left shoulder, and it continued to bother him throughout this game, something we're going to have to monitor. The swing, the late closeout, PG hand down, man down. Yeah, I said it. And this turned out to be a really gritty effort from Kanter. Watch him writhing in pain after each play, but it also speaks to the lack of trust I think Stouts has in both Collins and Leonard, right? Because is the gap that great that you have him out there with a dangling shoulder? And Russ, this was very predictable. Now, he didn't shoot it well, but you knew he was going to will in some threes. He wasn't going to 0 for it. He knocks down the corner three, and despite the light show from Dame, OKC had the lead because of the effort and the way the others were shooting the ball. And there's PG's third foul. Just a dumb one. I think that he's picked up some of Russ's good habits as far as his energy, but some of his bad ones too. I really do believe that. I think they're that connected that they've picked up some of each other's good and bad habits. This is a very Curry-like play. Tell me this isn't a Curry-like IQ play. Jumps the passing lanes, the flip behind the back, and Harkless, that's not how you say his name. Harkless finished in the check down roll all night long. Now you crowd Dame, right? He's on fire from the three-point line, and this is the difference. He's too strong for the quick guys, and he's too quick for the strong guys. Gets all the way to the cup. He's really worked on his English finishing, getting back to the right hand. Schroeder, Adams, little pick and roll. Again, when Russ is off the ball, OKC's offense, you just felt like you trusted it more, like they were going to get a better shot. Or you know who the coldest in the game. On his way to a 32-point half, the largest in Blazers playoff history. More Schroeder, Adams, pick and roll. And Adams, I've talked about his lack of mobility, and he doesn't get enough touches either. That probably doesn't help his motivation and his energy level, knowing that he's going to touch the ball 2 or 3 times a half. Don't have to explain what you saw on that shot, and then this happens. Look, man, I've clowned Schroeder plenty for the little bleach streak and some of his awkward stuff that he does, but this kid's tough as hell, man. If that was Paul Pierce, they'd have carted his ass out of there. That was Dwayne Wade. They would have air vacuumed him out. That would have been a 10-minute ordeal, but Schroeder catches his breath, gathers himself, and stays in the game. I thought he really showed up, and he impressed me with his toughness. Russ to the rim, no elevation. Another thing I want to make note of moving forward is Evan Turner. He played 16 minutes in this because McCollum was in foul trouble. I've always liked him. The number 2 pick out of Ohio State. I know he hasn't lived up to expectations, but he's a very nice safety net. When someone's in foul trouble or you need a different look, I think Evan Turner is ready for the moment in these playoffs. Dame, as strong as it gets. Russ tries to answer the other way, and once again, look at the elevation, man. That's not the same player finishing around the basket. Can he or will he ever adapt? The outlet pass and Seth Curry gives the Blazers their first lead of this game headed into the half. Now, excuse the DirecTV bar here, but Paul George, who had been sitting on the bench with 3 fouls, comes in for the final possession and knocks a 3-ball down. So it's a 1-point game going to the half. This was back and forth and very high-level, high-energy basketball. Third quarter, more logo Lillard. That one from about 31 feet. Now, after the very quiet first half from CJ, they made a concerted effort to get him going and get him some shots, and more importantly, to just give Lillard some time off ball and relieve him from the pressure of trying to create the offense every time. The throw ahead and then the kick back to the trailer, that's nice play design, kind of Warrior-like, right? The difference is Steven Adams a lot more stout catching that pass. He's not going to get pushed off his pivot. OKC, they didn't run enough for my taste, but part of that was you can't run after taking the ball out of the net after 3 from Dame Lillard. That time they get out and run, and then this was a big call here. You're going to see Aminu attack Paul George. I think it's the right call. This is my problem with these calls. Yeah, Paul George is there, but when did Aminu start to take off? Durant, Aminu, these long guys, they take off from so far. He wasn't there if you consider when Aminu actually started to launch. Good call, 4th foul on Paul George. The other storyline in the second half was Steven Adams really couldn't play. He only played 29 minutes. You see Harkless go right around him. They were leaving Harkless and trying to make him the scorer, and he was just too fleet of foot for Adams, who honestly, this offseason, he's going to have to find a way to regain some of his athleticism, perhaps lose some weight, heal up, and then if he doesn't regain his mobility, he's becoming a non-factor in the way the game's being played now. The turnover, Paul George already 4 fouls, has to let Aminu just cruise in for the layup, and back comes Portland. Watch Russ just put Paul George in a terrible spot here. Here comes the defense. 3 help defenders. He kicks to Russ. Russ kicks it back to him with 4 on the shot clock, and he's forced to hoist this up in the corner. So Russ Despite the forcefulness in the facade, he knows he doesn't really want to shoot the ball, and you see it play out at times. Paul George, the kickback, finally, he's just like, I know I got to take it, because he realized what he did on that last one, and he clanks it 1 of 7 from downtown at this point. Dame on his Tupac shit. How do you want it? He can give it to you left. He can give it to you right. On the road, facing elimination, though, I was impressed with the fight out of this Thunder team. Every time Portland had an answer, the Thunder had an answer, and vice versa. You see PG with the 3, and then Schroeder, like I said, 7 of 10 in the game, should have had more shots. To me, he's proven himself as a 16-game guy, right? He's a playoff competitor. Not a star, but a playoff competitor. Now, peep the defense being ratcheted up. Amazing closeout, stays down, contests from behind, and then sucks up Dame's shot space. And OKC gets some stops as they've cut the lead back down to 4. As you get a glimpse at rare Russ moving in second gear here, kind of probing and using a moving screen, and he gets Grant, who, oh yeah, he was 7 of 8 from the field. So the Thunder getting everything that they need to have happen on the road in this game 5, and Russ is even knocking down a few threes. Then we get a little vintage Russ. This is a little vintage Russ, and I think at this point, he jumps better off 2 foot than 1. He used to be able to do it off both. Now his 1-footed elevation is just not the same. Here we go, fourth quarter, and he rides the momentum into another 3-ball. But you know inevitably, if he hits 1 or 2, that means he's gonna hoist another couple of them, right? And so at times it's fool's gold. Here's the heat check, can't get it to go. But with other guys seemingly on fire, let them shoot the ball. There's Schroeder's second 3 of the game, and the Thunder go up 8 early here in the 4th, timeout from Stouts, and it felt like, okay, when's game 6? But even after the timeout, Portland couldn't stop the bleeding as Schroeder continued to attack and continued to stay in rhythm. That's tough over the 7-footer. And then this is a heck of a pass from Russ. Everything's on the line, no time to hesitate. You got to risk it all. You got to go for the glory. Long outlet pass. And Grant, I was impressed with his ability to finish. He's so slight, but he plays stronger than he is. Gets the and one. Now Schroeder, how about the step back? I was like, oh, that's a bad shot. I don't think he has that. Okay, he has that in the bag. 15-point lead halfway through the 4th quarter. And then I thought this was a huge play. CJ, the little floater, and you're like, oh yeah, CJ's in the game. Maybe, isn't he due for some points, right? Inbounds play. This is the problem when you have a bunch of offensive rebounders. They're always headed towards the shot, never back on defense. 5-point swing, Harkless, another dunk. And one thing OKC did, look at the shot clock here. You're at 16 and Russ attacks and turns the ball over. I know that that's not their DNA anyway, but they definitely didn't milk any clock with this 15-point lead. Lost in the Dame light show, though, was Cantor with a bum shoulder, 13 and 13. Big offensive rebounds and a couple big putbacks down the stretch of this game. Now it's a single-digit lead. Dame, deadly. And Myers Leonard with the whitest celebration ever. Nah, that's my guy. I love Myers. But Russ, the competitive willfulness, answers with a 3-ball of his own. I can't imagine being a fan of one of these two teams during this game, the emotional roller coaster that it was. Now Paul George, probably his toughest shot of the night, gets it to go somehow as they're trying to stave off this run. And then as if this game couldn't get any more epic, Nurkic shows up on the bench, walking without crutches, with the grizzly beard, rooting on his Blazers team, and it's CJ getting into his mid-range bag with the jumper, and now them cheeks getting tight in Oklahoma. What's Russ gonna do? Clear out ISO? Nah, that's not your shot. That's not your shot. Why take that? So after a timeout where I'm sure Donovan makes it very abundantly clear, we're going to Paul George. Look, they wanted to travel. That's a good call because look, what do you think? Paul George just fell over out of his pivot. Clearly he was dislodged, but then he goes to the free throw line and picks up the habit from Russ of clanking both of the clutch free throws. Now Russ goes to the basket looking for the call, and I will say this was a bad call. We've taken a look at a lot of these block charge calls throughout this game. Take another look at it. Lillard's moving. To me, that's a block call. It would have been an and one and could have been a series-altering call, but it's a bang-bang play, and you got to live with it. So here we go, under 2 minutes. Stay ready so you ain't got to get ready, Russ. Dame gets caught in the air, the quick flick, and Russ wasn't ready. He wasn't ready, and he allows CJ to go glass with that pretty floater. Ball still in Russ's hands. He gets downhill off the screen, the dump off. Grant can't finish it, and they foul Harkless on the rebound. who had a huge night for them, 17 points. Now, he was 5 of 10 from the free throw line, but he hit both of those free throws when it mattered. Now it's Paul George looking to split, and Seth Curry stays with the star. That's just a high IQ player, not worried about the switch. He knows it's money time. He knows Paul George is going to keep the ball, dives to the floor, and wins the possession for Portland, who somehow still has a chance. With a minute to go, it's McCollum on PG, and he does what he does. Rocks him right into the mid-range shot. It's a tie game. 56 seconds on the clock. Next possession for the Thunder. Please go to Paul George. Please go to Paul George. They go to Paul George. Doesn't even put the ball on the floor. Just shoots the buttery mid-range, and it's a tie game. Who's going to win this thing? Dame. Hesitation. You got to respect the three. I don't know how we finished that. That's an underrated finish in the point in this game. The reverse with the right hand, head completely under the basket. Russell Westbrook, do you trust Paul George, or do you want to answer Damian Lillard's 47 points? He goes to the cup and throws up absolute trash. Terry Stotts, no timeout, because you already know what time it is.
Lillard, a chance to send the Thunder home. Lillard, long-range three.
The pride of Oakland with his second series-ending dagger of his career from damn near 40 feet as Paul George walks off in disgust, and the Portland Trail Blazers redeem themselves from a year ago in a sweep, knocking off the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 5-game series. Damian Lillard, 50 points, 10 3-pointers, and maybe the most savage dagger I've ever seen in my life. Terry Stotts can't believe it. This was an epic moment. This gave you chills, and I hope that most of you caught this live. Now, it looks like it could be Denver and Portland, and I'm hoping for that because, let's be honest, even San Antonio fans don't want to watch the Spurs. So I'll probably do a breakdown of that series if it gets to a Game 7, take another look of it. And I'll leave you with this, just to ruffle a few feathers. Is Damian Lillard better than Steph now? I'm out, Joe.
Thank you so much, Brian. Damian, we've talked about this. You've prepared for this. Explain the mentality of this team. You were down by 15 at one point tonight.
I mean, in the NBA, teams go on runs. And before you make your breakthrough, adversity is going to hit. We knew it. We had been shooting the ball well. Things started going our way. I knew eventually we was going to have to fight through something to come out big. And our team fought through. We made shots, but what we was able to do on the defensive end, we came up with big stops. Mo hit 2 big free throws. We made every play we needed to make to win this game. Team effort.
The adversity, you've talked about it before, injuries to this team at inopportune times, the adversity in seasons past. What has that made you all into?
It's made us a more mature, tougher team. After last year, I kept telling people, sometimes it's just your turn to go through something. And when you keep fighting and you keep working through it and stay together, it's a reward waiting for you. We kept working, and I think this is the beginning of our result.
You, in particular, had quite an offensive night tonight. What were you seeing that the defense was giving you?
I mean, they weren't giving me anything. We knew they were fighting for their lives. We knew what type of game it was going to be. And once I realized we didn't have it going to start the game, I knew I was going to have to be more aggressive to start. And I was able to see some shots go in. Guys sprinted into screens. Our execution on offense, guys, we wanted to keep guys on the weak side flat so I had room. And everybody was mindful of those small things that allowed me to do the things that I did tonight.
All right, now, the education of this team. You all watch a lot of film. You express that you have patience. Going forward now, you have advanced in the playoffs. What is the biggest lesson that you can take away moving forward?
I think the last 2 times that we advanced, I think we kind of were satisfied with getting out of the first series. Sometimes the season wears on you. It's almost like you give in to the fatigue and the mental part of it, and you bow out of the playoffs. I think where we are right now as a team, we're not ready to bow out. I think we're getting stronger the later it gets, and it's showing.
Thank you. Nice job tonight. Congratulations.
I've been winning so long, it's like alchemy.